This is a cemetery. It's one of the first places that people think to look for Civil War veterans. It's not the movie version of a cemetery, though. You won't find zombies popping out of graves, vampires, or anything like that. A cemetery can be a useful place. Cemeteries hold a wealth of genealogical information. You can find out when a person was born, sometimes where he was born, when a person died, who his relatives were. Sometimes it can tell you the unit he served in during a certain war. It can tell you which war he served in. The point is, cemeteries are very useful, and in all my times in a cemetery, and I've visited hundreds of them, I haven't had one weird experience. But in our search for Civil War veterans, a cemetery is not the first place that you should look. The first place that you should look is here. This used to be a railway station in Chanute, Kansas. Now it's a library. The library is the first place you should look for Civil War veterans at. I know you're asking, how can I find Civil War veterans in a library? Well, in most libraries in Kansas, they have genealogy rooms now. And those rooms provide a wealth of information. I'm going to take you to one of those now. In the Chanute, Kansas library, the genealogy room is on the second floor. Here we go now. You notice as I walk into the door, the first thing you see was a microfiche reader. That's so you can read old newspapers, which are key in finding Civil War veterans. You see, people have anniversaries, so do events. And in this case, the 50th anniversary of the Civil War. Many cities in Kansas ran articles which listed Civil War veterans buried in their vicinity. It was no different for Chanute, Kansas. The local Grand Army of the Republic ran an article which listed all the Civil War veterans who are buried in and around Chanute, Kansas, which gives you a wealth of information from 1911 and before, which is a good starting point. Also, the Chanute Library has an index of obituaries. If you have names and you know that they died before a certain point, you can look for them. Also, there are the cemetery inscription books of the local area. You can find all kind of information in the genealogy room of a library. There are history books, which often give pictures of what the Civil War veteran looked like and give you in-depth histories. The Adjutant General's Report, and in some cases, families made their own genealogy books because of their pride for their Civil War veteran ancestor. This is David Campbell Newman's book, which his family made and donated to the Chanute, Kansas library. As you look around in the genealogy room, you might find pictures. Pictures are what gave me a lot of information. When I went back to look at the pictures, I found one picture in particular interesting, that of Colonel John C. Carpenter. I figured with the military rank that he must have been in some war. So I looked him up. He was a Pennsylvania Civil War veteran. These are three brothers who fought in the Civil War, the Ditmar brothers, two of which are buried in the local cemetery. George Ditmar, the older of the three brothers, is buried in the local cemetery. They all fought in the 9th Kansas Cavalry. This was a local judge who was a Civil War veteran. And these are the mayors of Chanute, at least the early mayors, and two of them were Civil War veterans. Also in the library you can find, in some cases, the Journal of the National, or the Encampment of the Grand Army of the Republic of Kansas. It gives you a lot of information. It gives you pictures of Civil War veterans. And in some cases, it shows you Civil War veterans that, pictures of Civil War veterans who recently died. In this case, after flipping around, you see a picture of Adolphus W. Ashcraft, who is buried in Chanute's Elmwood Cemetery, who was a Civil War veteran who served in a West Virginia unit. But one of the most important things in these encampments of the Kansas Grand Army of the Republic, you find the necrology list. This tells all of the veterans that died in the year prior to the publishing of this book. This book was published in 1900, so any veteran who died in 1899 is listed. It gives the veteran's name, what unit he served with, what Grand Army of the Republic post he served in, and exact date he died. The important thing to remember is to keep your eye open in your library. Look around, see what's on the wall. You'll find a wealth of information. The library also serves as a good place to plan your trip to the cemetery. Talking about looking on the wall, I found this one group photo on the wall of the Chanute Post Office in 1910, and I researched some of the people in the picture. One of them was a Civil War veteran. This gentleman had a son who became a mayor. He was a Civil War veteran. A lot of the group pictures have Civil War veterans in them. All you have to do is research a little bit and you can find out their history. This is a Civil War veteran and his family, donated by the mother. This is a Civil War veteran who would become an important banker of Chanute, Kansas, and also a mayor of Chanute, Kansas. And this is what gave me a lot of information on Civil War veterans in Chanute, Kansas. It is a Grand Army of the Republic list, which lists all the members as of a certain date. They wrote their signatures in. You can read them, you can decipher who they are and look them up. Luckily, Elmwood Cemetery, our local cemetery, has an online listing of when people died. I've researched a lot of Civil War veterans in Chanute and in their surrounding area. These are Civil War veterans 4 of which are buried in Elmwood, and 1 of which is buried in Eastside Cemetery in Erie, Kansas. They were all prominent people in Neosho County.